it's Margie, and if you've read the title for this review, you know that today I'm doing a movie review of kind of a minuscule film from 2011. It's called, it's called either Foster or Angel in the House. I am not sure because I've looked it up and several sources have it as Foster and I actually rented it under Angel in the House though, so I guess we'll call this one Angel in the House. I think it was originally called Foster and then they changed the title or whatever. That was a mess. But anyway, that's what I'm doing a movie review of today. This film started, well, and before I get into it, you know, you're probably thinking, well, if you've even clicked on this review, you're probably thinking, well, I don't really care about the film or anything, but I watched the movie, guys, and I did want to tell you a little something about it, so, you know, is it worth your time or not? So we're getting into that. Okay, let me rattle off who was in this thing. We've got Toni Collette. Man, I'm going to butcher his name, I'm sure. Ioan Gruffudd, I believe, is actually how you say his name, though if you're reading it, it's Ioan Gruffudd. That's what it looks like. And this is the guy that had a really small role in Titanic. He did all the Horatio Hornblower series. He was in Ringer, that television series. I mean, the guy's done some really good stuff. Anyway, Richard E. Grant, Maurice Cole, Anne Reed, and Haley Mills. Directed and written by Jonathan Newman. Cinematography by Dirk Nell. Music by Mark Thomas. And edited by Eddie Hamilton. Okay, guys, we're going to jump right in on this one. The story is about a couple, Ioan Gruffudd and Toni Collette, who have been trying to conceive a child for a really long time, and they can't, so they decide to do foster care. And they get this little boy whose name is Eli, and Maurice Cole plays his part. This is actually his first film, by the way. I'm going to get into performances, though, in just a minute. And so it's the story of what happens through their journey and all that kind of stuff. Okay, so jumping right in to performances with this one. Toni Collette, I thought she did pretty well. I didn't think she did quite as well as a couple of the other people in the movie, but I thought on the whole she was solid. Her character was okay, but her dialogue was not that super. I'm going to get to the writing in just a few minutes, but I guess she did a pretty good job. Could have been so much worse. Ioan Gruffudd, this is the reason why I watched this film, guys. I'm a pretty big, I know I'm probably saying his name wrong. I apologize. Ioan Gruffudd fan. I also knew that it had Haley Mills in it. I was like, oh, Haley Mills. So that was kind of my incentive to watch this one, and I thought he did absolutely great. Though I do kind of think that he was wasted a little bit in this role. I mean, he didn't really have anywhere to go with it, but for considering like the role and the dialogue and everything, he was just 10 out of 10. I mean, it's not one of his best performances because of the role, but great. He was great. I thought he did absolutely fantastic. Richard E. Grant was solid. He was. Maurice Cole plays the little boy Eli. This is actually his first movie ever, and I found him a little bit annoying, I've got to say, but I think it was directing. I think it was what he was told, how he was told to act and that kind of thing. So I'm giving him a bit of a pass on this particular instance. And hey, first film, you know, you got to cut people pretty much all the slack in the world for first film. Anne Reed was really good, and if any of you have seen the BBC series Bleak House, she was actually in that, and I've actually seen that series, so I was like, I've seen her somewhere before. Who is that? So Anne Reed. And Haley Mills, of course, from, oh my gosh, Pollyanna, The Parent Trap, obviously, That Darn Cat. I mean, the girl was in everything in like the 60s and 70s. She really was. So she was great. She looks so gorgeous in this film, y'all. She just looks so classy. She was great. She had a really small role. So Hayley Mills fans, other than just to, like, see her face for like 4 minutes of screen time, you know, it's not really worth a watch for you. I thought the directing was good, except for when it came to how this director dealt with the actors. Like, pretty much most of the scenes were good, and I know it has to do with cinematography too, but I thought that a lot of that kind of stuff was good, but I didn't really think that he brought the best out of his actors. Like I said, with the little boy, which I know some of this is writing, but, I mean, my stars, the little boy came off to me as really annoying, and there were several moments in this film where you're like, no, this would, like, never, ever happen in real life. And since you're dealing with, like, angels and all this stuff, you're having to suspend your disbelief so much already that he just went over the top with it, and you're like, this would never, too unbelievable. For me, some of that was writing, which like I said, I'm going to get to in just a mo, but I think some of that was the directing. I did not think that the directing was great, like I said, for the actors, and I think that's why Ioan's performance was probably not that super. I mean, he was still really, really great, especially considering the role. But there were some moments where I was like, oh, cheese. And I think that was totally the director saying, you know, come on with it. So I don't think he would have done that if he hadn't been asked to, but what do I know. The cinematography, there were some lovely things about the cinematography in this movie, but on the whole, it didn't really wow me at all. This is totally a low budget film, you know. It's kind of like one of those Hallmark Channel films, you know, so I wasn't expecting a lot. I thought, for considering all of that, though, it was pretty good. So I thought Dirk Nell, cinematographer, did a pretty good job. Music by Mark Thomas was really lovely. It was. I thought he did a great job. Editing, I thought was pretty good. There was a couple scenes where I was like, you could have cut that, and it does seem to drag on a little bit, even though it's only like an hour and 30 minutes long. But there wasn't like, you know, there are some movies, and you guys have seen these kind of movies, where there's like literally, you know, 20, 30 scenes that you're like, X, you know, like, can you please cut that out? It's a waste of time. It's distracting from the story. It has no point. And like seriously, I don't have time to just sit here and watch you enjoy, you know, whatever. So, yeah, there was not a lot of scenes like that. Yay to the lovely Eddie Hamilton who edited this. Last but not least, the writing. First of all, let me just say that the writer of this movie absolutely loves old movies, I would say, because there's two indications of that. First is as soon as the little boy gets to their house, when he's just first shown up, he's sitting on the couch watching a cartoon of Jerry Lewis in that famous scene where he's sitting there doing this on the typewriter with the music and all this. I'm sorry, that just makes me smile all over. Okay, then there was this scene where Richard E. Grant's character says to Ioan's character, what's that saying? Up from the ashes grow the roses of success. And if any of you have seen Chitty Chitty Bang Bang, you know that is a famous line from that, and even a song from that. So I was like, oh, yay. So, I don't know. Anyway, I really appreciated that because I really, really love old movies. So, that was kind of sweet. But, let's get back to the writing on the whole. The roles were not that great. I mean, I don't know. It's something about it just didn't, the dialogue, a lot of it fell flat, but it could have been so much worse, guys. I mean, you know, and some people will really enjoy this movie. I mean, it's not your worst, and it's, God, we've all seen, like, those B-list, C-list, like I said, kind of Hallmark Channel movies where you're like, this is awful. Like, there's, hey, we're on a tight budget, and this is going to be sentimental, but it's still going to be a decent movie. And then there's, hey, we're on a tight budget, this is going to be sentimental, and you're going to need to bathe after you watch it because it's just so sappy and pathetic. And this was definitely not one of those kind of movies. I mean, it kind of was, but it wasn't as bad as so many movies that I've seen. So I really, really liked that. I did not like in the writing either how much of an adult the writer made this child, Eli. I mean, he's in a little person's body. He literally acts like an adult the entire film. Ioan and Toni Collette's characters are just like, oh, this is how all children are. So I'm like, and at first they're like, wait, how old are you and stuff? And then they just get used to it. I'm like, no, normal kids are never like this. So I've totally blamed Jonathan Newman for the writing on that. That was not really a good call. I mean, he could have done some of that. Here's an example. So Maurice's character, Eli, even likes to talk about, he likes to watch CNN, he likes to talk about stocks and the economy, he talks about, like, what ingredients are in toothpaste. Like, he's just like a little encyclopedia, apparently, which you could have in a kind of a childish way. And they didn't do that. The writer did it in such like an adult way that it was like, this is completely unbelievable. I do not like this at all. And it got pretty annoying, honestly. And then plus how all of the adults in this movie treat the child like he is an adult. Like, Ioan's like asking him for advice and stuff. I'm like, yeah, no. They're like listening to everything that he says. He orders like pizza for them and spends their money, and then he's like, let's get in the car and drive, and I'm going to tell you where to go. And they're like, okay. I'm like, what the heck? No, you don't do that with your 7-year-old. I mean, it's just absurd. It got to be way too much, and I didn't think it was appropriate at all. Also, the fact that there was a couple moments where Maurice's character, Eli, did act like a child in the fact that he would, like, say something inappropriate or, you know, kind of sass them, and they'd just be like, yeah, whatever, he's okay. Like, huh? Like, there's this one line where Ioan is like, Eli, you're a genius, and Eli's like, oh, I've known that all this time, but thanks for confirming it anyway. And you're like, and they just laugh, and I'm like, no. Anyway, I don't know. Do you see what I'm talking about, though? Like, first of all, what child would say that? Second of all, that makes me hate the character of Eli because he's an egotistical jerk. And thirdly, that makes me be angry at the adults for saying, you know, not saying, hey, tone it down, or, I don't know, something about it, guys. I'm creepy, but I didn't really think that was appropriate. I thought that, unfortunately, the writer completely botched Eli's character, and since the movie is a ton of this about him, and he's in has a ton of screen time, that really weakened the overall film hugely. Parents Guide, you don't have a thing. I don't think you have a single thing. There's a little talk about, like, fertility treatments and stuff in the beginning, and then Ioan and Toni's characters are seen in bed, but like they're just waking up, they're fully clothed. I mean, there's nothing to worry about there. And there is one incident though where, if you're being nitpicky, where Ioan's like, oh, and he starts to say the S word, and then he looks over and sees Eli watching, and he's like, oh, I mean stuff, you know. And so, yeah, that's kind of, but like younger kids are probably not even going to catch that. But so anyway. I don't know. That was it. Balance score, none. You know, not a thing. Everything else was clean as a whistle, so good for that. This movie is better than a lot of movies like its kind that I've seen. You know, the classic, oh, this child comes and saves our marriage and our life, and suddenly everything goes from ashes to roses, just like that quote. You know, I mean, by the end of the movie, it is literally like happy ending, you know, happy ever after, or fa la la la, like that every wish comes true for them. Which is great and gives you, you know, a satisfying ending, but at the same time you're like, yeah, no, that doesn't happen. I mean, you know, so it's a little too good to be true for me. I'm giving this film 1.5, 2 stars out of 5. On the whole, ending summary, you know, like I said, 2 stars out of 5. I thought Ioan Griffin, or Griffith, or however you say it. You don't say it at all like you spell it, guys, so cut me a little slack. Great. He was great, but the role was not that good. For you fans of Ioan, you'll probably want to see this one, but honestly, if I was you, I'd probably just get out the little fast forward and skip past everything other than what he's in. So if you're really dying to see him, I would do that, and that's probably what I should have done, but I thought, no, I'm going to sit here and watch the whole thing. I bet you can guess what I'm going to say for the next question. Watch it again. Absolutely not. I would not. But, you know, I'm glad I got to see Ioan and Haley Mills and Anne Reid, who was in Bleak House. So, I don't know, guys. You know, there are these kind of movies that you're like, the only reason I'm watching it is because you're in it. You know, and I haven't seen you in a while, or I want to see you. And, you know, I want to just see, you know, how you're doing and everything. And that's the reason why I watched this movie. I did just want to say one more little thing about Ioan. Great job to him for not giving any less to this film just because it wasn't a major film. I mean, I felt like he was, you know, he was connected to every scene. He committed to everything. And I thought his performance was great. Again, the role, the dialogue was bad. So if you think his performance was bad, it's probably because of that. However, I didn't think there was anything he could have done better as far as, like, anything else. And this is another one of those great old films where the dialogue is weakening his acting. And I just applaud him, though, because, you know, there are so many actors and actresses that are like, okay, this is like a little B-list film or whatever, so I can just show off and goof off and collect the paycheck and go on. And he didn't do that. I mean, I felt like he really took it seriously and, you know, put in a great performance on this, and if this is his goof-off film, like where he didn't care at all, he still looked amazing. So, great job for him. He's definitely the highlight. Haley Mills was great, Anne Reid was great. So, those are the 3 reasons why I watched this film, guys. Fans of theirs, you'll probably want to check it out, I guess, but it's not one that you have to see, so if you pass it up, don't worry about it. Okay, guys, anyway, I know that a lot of you are going to say, I don't know why you're doing a review for this movie because it's so B-list and all this, and I started not to because I watched this one for my own pleasure, like, at all. Like, I wasn't expecting to, like, even think about it critically. You know, just because nobody's ever heard of it doesn't mean that you might not be presented with the opportunity to watch it. You know, there's so many movies and I know this is kind of after the review, but there's so many movies where I'm just like, I know this is B-list and all this, but, you know, my pal wants to watch it, or it's on TV, or, you know, my friend is loaning it to me, or all that kind of stuff. You know, should I watch it? Because there are some B-list movies that are actually really, really good. Some. So, again, if you're asking me, Margie, would I spend my time? I would not, but it's your call. Anyway, guys, wrapping this completely up, hopefully. I know I've said that like 5 times already. I'm just trying to close this thing. This has been my movie review of the film, either Foster or Angel in the House, whichever it is, whatever, and I'm going to call it Angel in the House, from 2011. I hope you enjoyed it, and I hope that you are now more informed about this movie and you can now make an educated choice about whether you want to watch it or not.